Today's edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We are bringing you lasted for farming sources and information sponsored by AgriGold. We're glad you're here on a Thursday afternoon. We'll have a conversation about the weather with Drew Lerner from Weather World in Kansas City. Welcome to the show. Drew, I'm honored for today with Josh M. He is the president of Illinois Pork Producers Association. Tomorrow is the agricultural outlook in Washington, D.C. I'm going to talk about that with Christina Vanon from Vanon and Company. Otherwise, this is your rural news sponsored by AgriGold in Central Illinois. This week's Ag Outlook Forum for tomorrow. Some people are concerned about the grains markets for this year. The grains prices are dropping for this year because of the tariffs and biofuel. This week is the hearing about the Farm Bill. Lori Stemver from National Pork Council. She will be in for her testimony of the Farm Bill for the Senate yesterday. Finally, next week will be warm for this weekend in the Midwest than last year. This been your rural news for this afternoon. This is your commodities markets for this afternoon, sponsored by Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Incorporated. Corn and beans is lower for today. The grains prices are watching the Ag Outlook Forum for tomorrow. March corn is down at 3 to 6 cents. May corn is down at 3 to 6 cents. Soybean futures is under pressure to buying some technical buying and low beans Acer. March beans is down at 3 to 6 cents. May beans are down at 5 to 10 cents. Chicago wheat is down at 8 to 5 cents nickel. May Chicago wheat is down at 3 to 6 cents quarter. September Chicago wheat is down at 3 to 6. Let's take a look for the livestock markets for today. Cattle is still buying fundamental on the feeder chart. April live cattle is up at 5 to 4 cents. June cattle is up at 5 to 10 cents. Feeder cattle is up for today. April feeder cattle is up at 5 to 9 cents quarter. May feeder cattle is up at 9 to 4 cents. Lean hogs is down at 9 to 4 cents. Let's take a look for the livestock markets for today. This been your commodity. We'll have a conversation about the weather with Drew Lerner from Weather World in Kansas City. Welcome to the show. Drew,
Thank you.
let's
Thank you.
talk about the weather in the Midwest. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. The weather across the Midwest continues to be a bit mixed right now. As you know, we have recently turned much warmer after a very cold period of time. As we move forward through these next 10 days, we may see some wild swinging temperatures once again. We're going to be warm certainly over this next 5 to 7 days. But there is a trend in the atmosphere right now that looks like it's inducing some stratospheric warming. And when you warm the stratosphere, you cause the stratosphere to expand both up and down. And the stratosphere is the layer of atmosphere that is immediately above our weather. We live in the troposphere. When you when you expand the stratospheric layer of the atmosphere, you push cold air out of the stratosphere down to the troposphere where we live. And so this is starting to take place. And a week from now, we may see a new round of bitter cold air moving into North America. At the same time, we're still looking at dry bias conditions prevailing in portions of the plains and the Western Corn Belt. So the combination is that we're probably going to end up seeing colder and drier biased weather return to many areas in the middle part of the country, and including the western part of the Corn Belt, as soon as the second half of this month.
What is the forecast for next few weeks until April? We are going to begin our planting season on this spring.
Yes, we will get some timely precipitation to occur across the heart of the Midwest over these next few weeks, but most of that timely moisture will be in areas from the Mississippi River eastward. In the Western Corn Belt, precipitation in March is going to be more limited, especially in the upper parts of the Midwest, where there's already a drought in place, and dryness is also extending down into portions of the U.S. plains and even the southwestern Corn Belt. So as we go forward through March, we're going to see a continuation of wet bias conditions in the eastern Midwest, especially the Ohio River Valley area, and points southward into the Delta and the Tennessee River Basin area, while we're going to see a continuation of less than normal precipitation in the western part of the Corn Belt and in the plains. The temperatures are likely to turn colder biased once again, but it'll be in the second half of the month rather than in this first half. And for the next week to 10 days, we will still be warm biased. And so that'll be helpful. As far as the early season planting prospects is concerned, we will get off to a really good start in April across the Western Corn Belt, but the eastern part of the Midwest will probably have more wet biased conditions to deal with and a little slower planting pace.
I hope that it is not going to be same thing in 2019.
No, I don't think that we have to worry about that occurring. The biggest concern that we have is that we might turn too dry in portions of the Western Corn Belt and Western and parts of the Great Plains. The Eastern Midwest will have a wetter bias, but I don't think it's going to be anything like what we had in the 2019 year.
True. I'm just curious about what is your thoughts with the Mississippi River, if in the Midwest on the drought.
Yes, the Mississippi River recently had quite an increase in water levels from the Memphis area southward to New Orleans. And that was a byproduct of that very heavy rain event that occurred in Kentucky and Tennessee during, I guess it was about 2 to 2.5 weeks ago. Most of that runoff is gone now through the system, and we will see the lower Mississippi River Valley retreat from its recent rise. And in the meantime, the Missouri River and the middle and upper Mississippi rivers have not seen nearly the kind of precipitation and snow depths that we normally have. And so the water levels are low. And as we progress through the next 30 days, those water levels will continue to be low. And so the lower Mississippi is going to see a fall in water levels while we continue quite low on the Missouri and the upper half of the Mississippi. I do not expect to see any big changes in this scenario until we can get significant precipitation to fall across the northern half of the plains and the upper Midwest. And that's going to be a while in coming.
Do you follow the Missouri River as well? Into
Yes,
the Yellowstone River?
Yes, absolutely. The Missouri River is going to continue to be at low levels. However, the Missouri will be fed by the snowpack in the northern Rocky Mountains. And as the snow melts, the Missouri River should stay at favorable levels. But without having good, solid soaking rain in the upper parts of the Midwest and the northern plains, there's not going to be as much runoff as there normally is. That Missouri River basin area needs to see greater amounts of moisture fall in addition to the runoff from the snowpack in order to get the levels on the river up substantially. But we do have a normal snowpack in the northern Rocky Mountains. So the Missouri River isn't going to be critically low, but it will be lower than usual for a while.
Drew, do you have any concerns about this summer and the drought?
I am a bit concerned about the dryness that's out there in the plains right now in the upper Midwest. And we are looking at long-term weather patterns right now that do not promote a large amount of rain in these areas before we get into the warm season. And so I am concerned that we could have a dryness issue. Now, as stated earlier, I think that our spring planting will go extremely well. We will have enough moisture around to get field work to take place at a swift pace. But once the crop is up, we may run into two problems. Number one, is a problem with deep subsoil moisture, which may stay low. The other problem is that we may still encounter some significant cold surges later in the spring that could catch us off guard if we plant too early this year. So those are the two primary things that I'm looking at. But if we do stay drier biased in the spring, then the summer, once we start heating up, some of those areas in the plains and the western corn belt will have the potential of being too dry, and a drought could indeed develop. Now, how significant that may be remains to be seen, and much depends on the rain that we get in the next couple of weeks, next few weeks.
What is your thoughts on this growing season months, June through September?
I think for the most part, the summer season is going to be marked by a northwesterly flow pattern aloft for the northern and eastern parts of the Midwest. This will bring periodic shower and thunderstorm activity to the Great Lakes region, Ohio and Indiana, and portions of Wisconsin and northeastern parts of Illinois. I think areas farther to the west, though, will still be dealing with a little bit more of a warmer and drier scenario. And as we talked a moment ago, we may have to deal with some droughty conditions in some of those areas in the middle of the US. So the summer will be a bit mixed with favorable crop conditions in the eastern part of the Midwest and more of a stressful environment for those crops near and west of the Mississippi River, and especially in the Great Plains.
For the Midwest on next few weeks?
Most of the Midwest is expecting to see, again, a little bit of a split personality, I suppose. The eastern parts of the region will have some regular occurring precipitation. We will see the temperatures mild to slightly warmer biased for a short period of time between now and the middle of March, and then we'll see the temperatures turn cooler in the second half of the month. The precipitation will continue fairly frequent with the Ohio River Valley wettest. In the western part of the Midwest, over these next few weeks, we expect to see a below normal precipitation bias, especially when you get out into the Missouri River Valley. Areas between the Missouri River and the Mississippi River will have some precipitation, but it's likely to be lighter than normal and not enough to counter or not enough to fix the drought that is impacting some areas in Iowa and points northward. So we do expect to see some precipitation, but it's not going to be that much. And the temperatures in the western Corn Belt will be above normal in this first week to maybe 10 days of the month of March. And then we'll look for some cooling to occur during mid-month, and then we will finish the month colder than normal.
You mentioned before that we were going to have received rain, but how about in the state of Illinois?
Yes, Illinois is in a position to get precipitation periodically. It will be much wetter in the south half of the state. Maybe we should even say the southern two-thirds, maybe, will be wetter biased. Certainly, the closer you get to the Kentucky border, the greater the anomaly will be. And then, in contrast to that, northwestern Illinois and the Rockford area and over towards Quincy, we are expecting those areas to see less than normal precipitation. Now, it will not be completely dry during the month of March in Illinois, but I would expect to see less than usual amounts in the northwest and again above normal in the south. The temperatures will probably do a lot of bouncing around during the month. We will have the warmest weather in this first week to 10 days, and we'll see the coldest weather in the last week to 10 days of the month of March. And there's a good chance we're going to see some very cold conditions for a little while as we finish out the month. So the best time period to get out and enjoy the weather in Illinois is probably now and over the next week or so. And then we should prepare for some more cold weather that might slow us down in getting started in field work in April.
Mm. Welcome to Illinois. Thanks, Drew.
Thank you, Caesar. You have yourself a great day. I appreciate the opportunity to
This is
share my
Drew
knowledge.
This is Drew Lerner from Weather World on Back Roads of Illinois. I'm honored for today with Josh M. He is the president of Illinois Pork Producers Association. How are you, Josh?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Caesar. It's warm weather down here in Southern Illinois, and we're enjoying it very much.
Let's discuss about your operation in Central Illinois. Could you tell us about it?
Certainly, we have some sow farms in the Pittsfield area in Pike County in West Central Illinois. We have about 60,000 sows across that area. Some of them are across the border into Iowa, but mostly in West Central Illinois there. It comprises about half of our sow farm base in the company. We have about 130,000 sows across the Midwest. We have about 400 employees that work in that area and a number of production partner families that raise the finishing hogs in that area. So it's a very crucial part of our business and something we're very proud of.
How many sow farms in Nashville, Illinois?
We have about 25,000 sows here in Southern Illinois. Most of those around Carlisle, and then some around in Louisville, which is about 100 miles or so east of St. Louis.
So it is a big hogs area.
Yeah, West Central Illinois, there are a number of hogs in that area. Here in Southern Illinois, around Nashville, it's very much corn and soybeans. There are some hogs in the area in southern Illinois in that Louisville region. There are a lot more hogs up around Effingham. East of 57 in Jasper County, there's a number of producers in that area. It's a very fertile area for growing hogs. We also have several production partner families. I actually just recently met with a number of them in the last 2 evenings. We host an annual meeting where we pull our production partner families together and gather feedback from them. They predominantly raise pigs grown for slaughter in the from the birth 12-pound wean to finished weight, grown weight, before they go to the packing plant.
Cool. I didn't know that. What is your top priority, Josh? How concerned about the trade in Mexico and China, which they are both very important?
Trade, you touched on it perfectly, Caesar. Trade is extremely important to pork producers across the country, but especially to Illinois as the fourth largest pork producing state in the nation. As an industry, the United States pork industry exports about 25% of our product, as you probably know. Our biggest customers for that exported product are Mexico and Canada. China does rank up a little higher in the top 10 there, but they tend to produce a lot of their own pork and retain that inside of their own country. So they don't like to be very dependent upon the United States or others. But if they do have some foreign animal disease outbreaks or issues with production, there will be times when they import from the United States. Actually, next week, I'm going with the United States Meat Export Federation on a trip to Mexico to visit with purchasers of the U.S. pork product, as well as companies that focus heavily on exporting and marketing that product to Mexico as one of our primary customers. Obviously, it's important that we don't want retaliatory tariffs against United States pork, being that these are some of our critical markets to supporting the price in the industry. I'd like to be able to attend that trip along with several others from the pork industry to show them this is how we raise our animals in Illinois. This is what we're committed to, producing the product in a sustainable way, taking care of our animals and showing that we care for our customers, and continuing to have access to their markets. We look at locally here in the maschhoffs, our purpose is really about feeding families and building communities. And just because we export product to another country doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to have that same purpose of feeding families.
What is the exports numbers from the state of Illinois, then our neighbor in Iowa and Minnesota? Josh.
Yeah, I can't really speak to that. I'm not that knowledgeable on the individual exports from the state. But I can tell you that of the 25% of the pork product exported out of this country, that about 40% of it is consumed by Mexico. So if that gives you a little bit of an impact on how much demand they have.
Do you have any final thoughts on Prop 12?
I think that Prop 12 is a very interesting subject. My final thoughts would be we need to have and we allow choice to our consumers. The customer has choice. We want to provide those options. We want to focus on giving them a wholesome product that's nutritious. We believe that as producers, we know the best way to take care of and raise our animals. Focusing on Prop 12 at the national level, I think that it's important for Congress to work through, a unilateral decision to help us understand how that trade between states should take place. I don't think that it's right that one state that receives our product should dictate how we produce that product in another state. We have state laws and we're governed that way for a reason. I think that when there's some interstate commerce, it requires Congress to give us more of a broad approach, and hopefully that would come through a farm bill here in the next year. It's important. We have choice for our consumers. They can look at several different products that we produce. I think actually the current president of the National Pork Producers Council testified yesterday before the Senate on exactly the same thing, Lori Stevermer, and she very clearly called out some of the unfair practices that are being pushed by Prop 12. If you look at those practices, as the example she gave is, it puts restrictions on uncooked fresh cuts. So bacon that comes in an uncooked package can't be sold under the same requirements in California as bacon that was pre-cooked that came in a package, even though it might have come from the same farm. So those are my thoughts, on that ruling, and I'd love to see that at our Congress level that they work to find a solution that is not so burdensome and restrictive economically to farmers for a product that just doesn't really make sense when it restricts certain products but not others from the same farms.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
This is Josh M. from the Illinois Pork Producers Association for Back Roads of Illinois.
Thank you very much, Caesar, for your time.
Thanks to Drew Lerner from Weather World and Josh M. from Illinois Pork Producers Association. This been Back Roads of Illinois. I am Caesar Delgado. You have a great day.